Welcome back to ChampMind Studios. My name is Mitch, and on this channel, I break down the mindset and psychology of world champions. I dive into what makes these individuals great from a mindset perspective, and then I teach you how to apply those mental skills into your own lives and goals as you look to unleash greatness. And I was wrong about Ilia Topuria. I was way wrong about this guy, because I said in my breakdown video last week that his arrogance would ultimately lead to his downfall, that he was taking Alexander Volkanovski way too lightly, and that everything that he was saying leading up to that fight was a projection of arrogance, and that he didn't actually believe it. He was trying to convince himself. Man, do I look like an idiot right now. I look like an absolute moron, because everything that Ilia Topuria spoke, he spoke into existence. Knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in vicious, violent fashion in the second round to claim the undisputed UFC featherweight championship. And I gotta tell you, nothing but respect. Hats off to Ilia Topuria. You know, I was not a big fan of the way that he was hyping the fight up. I thought he was being extremely disrespectful to one of the GOATs, one of the greatest of all time, in Alexander Volkanovski. But now that I look back on it and I can reflect on, you know, now that we know the result, obviously, and I can sit there and kind of put things into perspective, Ilia Topuria's mindset was lethal. And we're going to talk about that here today. I'm going to break down his mentality, and I'm also going to break down some of the other fights from the UFC 298 pay-per-view, because I thought it was a great pay-per-view with some awesome fights, a lot of big moments that I want to discuss. So we're going to dive into all of that here today. But before we get into that, guys, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and ring that notification bell so you do not miss out on the journey that I'm going to be taking you on here on ChampMind Studios. Because over the course of the next few weeks and months, I'm going to be breaking down the mindset of some of the most iconic champions in the history of the world. You know, guys like Kobe Bryant, Francis Ngannou, teams like the 2016 Chicago Cubs. So you definitely don't want to miss out. All right, let's talk about UFC 298. I went 6-6 overall on picks and did absolutely horrible with bets, absolutely horrible with parlays. I think I'm done, guys. I think I'm done with the betting side of MMA because, you know, once in a while you'll get lucky. I mean, I had a really great night last year where I was able to turn $10.75 into over $6,000 on a full 12-leg parlay. But that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You know, you end up chasing these parlays and you're trying to outdo yourself and you're throwing money away. And while, for the most part, I feel like I'm pretty good at picking fights, I feel like I'm pretty good at predicting fights, this is such an unpredictable sport. You're really throwing your money away, especially when you're relying on multi-leg parlays to come through for you. So wasn't a great night in terms of the betting aspect of it, but a great night from an entertainment perspective. I thought it was a tremendous pay-per-view. Every betting favorite except for Ilia Topuria won, and that threw me off because I really thought some of these dogs were live. I was very high on Roman Kopylov. I thought he was going to knock out Anthony Hernandez, and he looked pretty good early on in that first round. He was stuffing some takedowns, but Fluffy Hernandez is a dog, man. And this guy, we got to stop underestimating this dude, man, because he's a bad boy. He went in there, took Kopylov down, choked him out, and was smiling the whole time while he was choking him out. This guy knows how good he is, and you're going to be seeing a lot from him very, very soon in that middleweight division. I'd like to see him fight somebody in that upper echelon next. He deserves it. He deserves a ranked opponent next time out. Henry Cejudo and Merab Dvalishvili. I originally picked Henry Cejudo in my breakdown video. I did change that pick and flipped it to Merab, and that ended up working out because Merab looked fantastic. I mean, he went in there and, like I said, this guy brings a pace that not many can match, and he put that pace on Henry Cejudo, and at one point picked Henry Cejudo up in the air, ran across the octagon, and slammed him like an Alabama slammer, like a professional wrestling maneuver, in front of Mark Zuckerberg. absolutely crazy. And this is Henry Cejudo, the very same Henry Cejudo that won a gold medal in wrestling and is one of the best pure wrestlers to ever step foot in the octagon. Merab went out there and made him look like a small child. So credit to Merab. You're going to be seeing Merab with that UFC Bantamweight Championship very soon. I promise you that. Sorry about your luck, Sean O'Malley fans, but Merab Dvalishvili is coming for that title. Paulo Costa was another underdog that I was pretty high on, and he looked great. I mean, that was a fantastic co-main event. I thought Costa had some moments there. He landed some significant damage on Robert Whittaker, but credit to Bobby Knuckles, man. This guy, he found a way. He looked like the Bobby Knuckles of old and picked Costa apart and absolutely deserved that decision. It was close. It was a very closely contested fight, but I have no issues with the decision there. I actually thought that was the fight of the night. I was surprised they ended up giving that bonus to the Mackenzie Dern Amanda Lemos fight, and that was a fun fight too. But I thought the Whittaker Costa fight was the best fight on the card. Listen, I hope Paulo Costa stays active after this. He doesn't fight enough, but when he does, he is nonstop entertainment, and he's fun to watch. And Robert Whittaker, I would love to see him fight Sean Strickland next if they don't give Strickland an immediate rematch against Dricus du Plessis. If that is not in the cards, I think you got to do Strickland and Whittaker. Maybe you do that on a fight night main event or a co-main event on a pay-per-view. That would be a fun one, and I'd love to see that. Some other moments that stood out to me from this card, the Chinese light heavyweight Zhengming Yang that made his debut. He looked like a sniper. I mean, this dude, precision striker with killer instinct, and he took advantage of his moment in that post-fight interview. He put that 205 division on notice, putting the horse ahead of the card a little bit, calling out Alex Pereira. He's not quite there yet, but I like the ambition. I like the ambition from this guy, and he has tremendous potential. So I'm very interested to see this guy, Zhengming Yang, climb through the ranks in the UFC's 205-pound division. And who knows? You might be looking at a future champion. You might. All right, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Ian Gary. Listen, it was not the best performance from Gary. It was a pretty boring fight, let's be honest. But I know the Ian Gary haters are using this as more fuel to just continue to just throw a barrage of negativity at this kid. But hey, he got the job done against a very tough, underrated guy in Jeff Neal. I mean, to put it into perspective, Jeff Neal in his last fight was in an absolute barn burner with Shavkat Rakhmonov. Had Shavkat in some danger in very brief moments in that fight, and almost finished him at one point. So Shavkat Rakhmonov is the guy that everybody is saying is the next big thing, the next champion. Jeff Neal is a world-class welterweight. Most people don't know this. If you're a casual fan, you don't really know that name, Jeff Neal. He is not an easy guy to put away. So I didn't think Ian Gary was going to knock him out. At no point did I think Ian Gary was going to run through this dude. But he did what he needed to do to get the win. Looked pretty good. Did not look like the Ian Gary that we saw against Neil Magny. Did not look like the Ian Gary that we've seen in some of his other fights in the UFC. But this was a big step up in competition, and he got the W. And, he's going to keep climbing up the welterweight rankings. And I know, people hate this guy. They want to see this dude get knocked out. They want to see somebody just wreck this guy and humble him. And we could see that. I mean, as the competition continues to grow and he gets these big fights, who knows if he's going to keep on winning. I'm not the biggest Ian Gary fan myself. I think he's annoying. I think he's very cringy. I don't like the way that he tries to hype these fights up. I think a lot of times he crosses a line, particularly when he was talking about Neil Magny's kids, or not specifically his kids, but like he was trying to spin a narrative that Neil Magny is like an abusive father when he had no real proof of that whatsoever, and just he almost caused an issue with Neil Magny getting custody of his kids because of that. Then in this Jeff Neal fight, he was putting a picture of Jeff Neal's mugshot on a T-shirt. Not a big fan of stuff like that. I know he's saying, I'm just trying to sell a fight. I'm just trying to market the fight. All the credit to you for doing that, but there is a line there. I'm not a big fan of when guys do that. I hated when Colby Covington was talking about Leon Edwards' deceased father. there's lines there, right? So I do want to see somebody humble this kid. But you know what? He keeps winning. He keeps winning these fights. I don't know if Ian Gary is going to be a world champion one day. He certainly has that aura about him, that star power potential. And look, I think his striking is tremendous. I mean, he didn't look like a killer against Jeff Neal, but that's a hard thing to do against a guy like Jeff Neal. So credit to Ian Gary. I know the haters are just throwing more insults at this guy, saying he sucks, saying his fight was boring. And I'm with you. I thought that fight was rough to watch. But hey, credit to Ian Gary, got the W. Let's see what this kid can do next time out. I'd like to see him fight somebody like Colby Covington next. Not a big fan of either of those guys. So, I really wouldn't have much of a dog in that fight. But I think stylistically, that would be a very interesting matchup in the top 10 of the welterweight division. All right, let's talk about Ilia Topuria. I was very vocal leading up to that fight that I thought he was going to get humbled. He was too cocky. He was talking all this shit. And in my opinion, I perceived that as him not really believing it. He was saying all this stuff. I thought he was saying all of this stuff to try to convince himself. And I was wrong, man. And I'll be honest, when Topuria walked out to the octagon last night, I questioned that prediction. I questioned everything that I was saying because this guy looked so calm. He looked so calm, cool, and collected, and you could tell just by looking in his eyes as he was making that walk that he knew deep down he was about to manifest everything into reality. So I was nervous. I still thought Volk was going to get it done. But in that moment, during that walkout, I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, oh shit. I think I might be wrong about this. In the first round, Volk looked pretty good. He's a tough guy to fight, man. He's short, he's bulky, he's stocky, but he's got that wingspan. He has that reach advantage, and he knows how to use it. So I thought Volkanovski did a good job in that first round. He avoided the big shots from Topuria. He was landing some shots of his own. But then once that second round came forward and Ilia landed that shot, I knew right away. I was like, it's done. It's done, man. And you know what? Again, credit to Ilia. I will sit here and I will admit to you all that I had a bad read on him. I really did. What I perceived as an arrogant young man, this guy was just had a lethal belief in himself. And I talk about that on this channel all the time. If you want to be great, if you want to be one of the best in your craft, you have to have this unwavering belief in your abilities. So looking back on it, I'm a little ashamed that I didn't see that in Topuria. I'm a little ashamed because I'm usually pretty good about knowing the difference between confidence and arrogance. And I really thought, man, I was looking at this guy. I mean, people were making all these comparisons between him and Conor McGregor, saying they have the same record, they're the same age when they fought for the title. They both had a influence with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, Arnold watched Ilia Topuria's very first pro MMA fight, and obviously Arnold was a big advocate for Conor McGregor early in his career too. So there was a lot of comparisons being thrown around. But I took it as, man, this guy Topuria is a McGregor wannabe. He even went as far as like copying Conor's back tattoo. And then obviously stealing Volkanovski's belt at the press conference, just like how Conor did to Aldo all those years ago. That pretty much sealed the deal for me. I was like, this guy is just the biggest Conor McGregor wannabe I have ever seen in my life. So that played a factor in my thought process. And I was like, you know what? Like, man, this guy, I think I had a little bit of a bias there, and I was like, I want to see Volk humble this guy. I want to see Volk just dominate this dude, embarrass him, make him go back and change his Instagram bio, because that was the other thing too. Ilia Topuria, in the months leading up to this fight, already changed his bio to say that he was the world champion. And that was something that I was vocal about as well. I was like, dude, you haven't won the belt yet. I'm all for manifestation. I'm all for speaking things into existence. But I didn't like that. And a lot of folks agreed with me. But again, looking back on it, reflecting on everything that happened, that is why Ilia Topuria is the world champion. So let's talk about that. Let's unpack this. Manifestation is one of the most powerful mindset techniques that you can employ in your life right now, but it's also one of the most misunderstood because people think that it's just about thinking positive thoughts, saying things, speaking things into existence. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. And just saying that over and over again, and then just miraculously you wake up, you have $1 million. That's not how it works. What it is you have to get into the subconscious. You have to reprogram your mind to get to work to make your dream and your goal appear in your 3D reality. And that comes from an unwavering, lethal belief in yourself. But it's a daily grind. It's a daily mental diet. And it's not going to happen instantaneously like that. But when it does, it's going to feel like that. When you accomplish your dreams, when you accomplish a big goal, it's going to feel like it happened instantaneously, like it happened overnight. But the reality is you were grinding daily, monthly, over the period of several years for that matter, and you just had this unwavering belief. You knew you were going to get it done. And subconsciously, your actions aligned with that vision. That's what manifestation is. That's what the law of attraction is. And the greatest, most successful people in the world know how to embrace that, know how to follow those principles. But they're also hated. They're also, perceived as being cocky, perceived as being arrogant. Conor McGregor is the prime example of that. And so is John Jones. Both of them talked openly about how they read The Secret or watched the movie The Secret, which was written and filmed by Rhonda Byrne, and she really kind of launched, the law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, into the mainstream media. And they spoke about this. Both of them said they followed those principles to a T early in their careers and manifested everything that they set out to accomplish in the sport of mixed martial arts. Two of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport. But people hated on them early on. I was one of them. I was not a big fan of either one of those guys, especially Conor McGregor. I thought this guy was a cocky, arrogant prick. Leading up to that Jose Aldo fight, I sat there and said, Aldo's going to humble this kid. Aldo is going to, remind people that he is the best featherweight in the world. Literally everything that I was saying about Alexander Volkanovski, I was saying about Jose Aldo. History repeats itself. History repeated itself again, and I should have known. I should have known. The same people that were doubting Conor McGregor were the same people doubting Ilia Topuria. Again, I was one of them, guilty as charged, and admitting to you that I was wrong. But the powerful thing with that is this is a guy that was able to stay true to what he knew was going to happen. He used visualization techniques for months, maybe even years, leading up to this moment. He talked about that. The very second that Ilia Topuria debuted in the UFC, and the very second that Alexander Volkanovski became champion, Topuria visualized himself fighting him, knocking him out, everything. He visualized this exact moment and spoke it into existence. He said it out loud, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because how could a guy that wasn't really tested yet, dangerous young contender, but hadn't really fought a who's who in that division outside of Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell, how could this guy seriously think he's going to run through the GOAT in that division in Alexander Volkanovski? But he knew it. He knew it the whole time, and he kept visualizing. He kept that image in the back of his mind and did not allow the critics, did not allow people like me to push him away from that. That right there is the biggest key when it comes to manifesting your dreams, folks, because I talk about this all the time. We can't allow the opinions of others to deter us, to have us, change the course of where we want to go. And that happens all the time because, again, it's the power of the subconscious mind. Your subconscious is not only listening to your thoughts, it can listen to the thoughts of other people. And if you're constantly hearing people say you can't do it, you're crazy, you're being unrealistic, if you start to believe that, if you start to allow those words to get into your subconscious, you're never going to accomplish what you want to do. Ilia Topuria, Conor McGregor, John Jones, all of these elite level champions, the reason why they were able to manifest their dreams is because they didn't allow the voices to deter them. And sometimes those voices are not always going to come from strangers. Sometimes it's the ones closest to you, your family and your friends, and they have good intentions. They have very good intentions. But this is why I say sometimes you want to keep your goals, your dreams to yourself, because when you say things, to your family, oh, I want to be president of the United States. Oh, that's stupid. You're never going to accomplish that. That's not realistic, and you should focus on something a little bit more realistic. Well, what if that's really your dream? Your dream just got shattered there. The beautiful thing about being a human being, especially in this country, in the United States, you really do have the ability to be whatever you want to be if you work at it, if you consistently work at it, and you go forward and you don't allow other people to deter you, and you stay true to your dream, to your vision, you'll get there. I promise you, you hang around the barber shop long enough, you're going to get a haircut sooner or later. But the problem that most average people face is, again, allowing the voices of the critics to deter you, to move you in a different direction. So that, in my opinion, and look, I was one of those critics of both Topuria and McGregor. I was proven wrong. So were millions of other people. Millions of people that were saying on social media all kinds of things. Go back and watch my video. I was very, very vocal in what I was saying about how Topuria was too arrogant and he was going to get smashed. I was not the only one saying things like that. So you're talking millions of people. How difficult do you think that is to ignore that? But he did. Blocked it out. Stayed true to the vision. Stayed true to what deep down he believed, deep down he knew was going to happen. That's what it's all about. That's how you become a world champion. So all the credit in the world to Ilia Topuria. I'm not going to lie, it sucks seeing Volkanovski get knocked out again, but I do want to address something real quick. And keep in mind, I am a big fan of Alexander Volkanovski, but I don't like how people are starting to spin this narrative that the only reason why Topuria won that fight, why he knocked out Volk, was because Volk took that fight way too soon, and he should have taken some more time after the Islam knockout, and he wasn't quite ready. Guys, that's bullshit. That's pure bullshit. Volkanovski was ready for this. He came in with a full camp. He looked absolutely in the best shape of his career, and that was Volkanovski at his best. So you cannot make excuses. You can't. Listen, again, I am one of the biggest Volkanovski fans that there are. You cannot make excuses. Ilia Topuria won that fight fair and square, and he is the best featherweight in the world right now. Now, do I think Volk should get an immediate rematch? He's absolutely deserved it. I mean, 100%. This guy was one of the longest reigning champions in recent memory. And he was a company man. I mean, Volk did whatever the UFC asked him to do. Fought Max Holloway 3 times. Fought Islam Makhachev on 5 days' notice off the couch, drinking beers with no training. Right? I think you got to give him. I think you got to give him an immediate rematch. So I would love to see that, and I would love to see that in the UFC's first pay-per-view in Spain. I think that would be absolutely massive. So hopefully that's what the UFC, that's what they're working on. If not, I mean, look, Topuria is calling for a fight with Conor McGregor. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. Everybody wants to fight McGregor, but first of all, for one, Conor is not going back to 145. The dude is walking around close to 200 pounds. If you think he's going to cut down to 45, you're out of your mind. And if you think that Topuria has earned a shot to fight in a 155 or catchweight fight with Conor McGregor when he hasn't even defended the belt yet, I think that's stupid, and we really got to stop. We really got to stop doing stuff like that. You know, I miss the days where guys would win a championship, clean out the division, and build a legacy based on being the best in their division. Volkanovski was one of the last remaining guys that did that. But these days, man, you see these guys win these titles, and they're already thinking about double champ status. They're already thinking about super fights and money fights and jumping up a weight class or two. I would really like to see Topuria work on cleaning out that division and breaking Volkanovski's record. And actually, I think Jose Aldo still holds the record for most consecutive title defenses in that featherweight division. So I'd like to see Topuria make that his goal, to break that record. But he's saying things like, oh, I'm not going to fight guys like Max Holloway. I'm not going to give Yair Rodriguez a title shot. I'm not going to give Brian Ortega a title shot. Like, who are you going to fight then? Like, those are the top three guys in that division. So, you know, while I give Topuria all the credit in the world, while I will admit to you that I was wrong about his mindset, I do think that some of the things that he's saying are just a little, I don't know, they're rubbing me the wrong way. But we'll see what happens. Until next time, guys, let's unleash greatness. Boom!